Mike. All right, so I'll do a roll call here real quick again. So we got, let me get my, crap, where'd it go? All right, so we got Mike Hewitt, we got Mark Barthel, we got Tom Eckhoff, we got Doug Dingman. Glenn, you said you were here, correct?
I'm here.
All right, we got Jim Cooper. Oh, Jim Cooper yet? We got Lynn Lag. Okay, well, we got myself, and we got Dave Kane. We're automatically on the holding corporation. We'll go ahead and get started so we can get the heck out of here. What is it? It's 2011 hours. Call the meeting to order and get my agenda up again real quick. So basically the thing for tonight, as forwarded out by Diane, was we got to get our election of officers figured out. And so basically, as commander, I'm just going to run the meeting until the officers are elected and in place, and obviously I'm stepping aside. And then we also have a motion to consider that was sent out, with that agenda. We got to talk about that line of credit. We got to talk about professional services with Peter Coyle for some legal representation, and then figure out our next meeting. All right, does anybody else have anything they want to add to that?
Is the insurance in our venue?
I believe that's on Property and Finance Committee side. Okay.
Well, at least we got Dave here, so he's on that one.
Yeah. Okay, so we got to figure out the election of officers. First off, we need a president for the holding corporation. Does anybody have any nominations for the president? Or does anybody want to volunteer to be the president?
This is Dave Kane. I'd nominate Mark.
Yeah, and I would second that, to nominate Mark as the president, simply because I believe Mark has the history at the post. He knows, he has the background with it and everything like that. So I think he'd be a good candidate for the president. Does anybody else have anybody else they want to nominate? Or Mark, do you accept the nomination even?
I'll accept it.
Okay. Does anybody else have any nominations or want to volunteer? All right. Is there any discussion or anything on that?
May I suggest that you ask one more time and then close nominations, have a motion?
Yep, we'll do. Are there any other nominations for the position of president of the holding corporation or any volunteers? All right. Being no further nominations or volunteers, I'm going to go ahead and close nominations for president. All those in favor of Mark being president of the holding corporation signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
All right. Congratulations, Mark. So Glenn, just for a point of order here, now that we have a president, should I keep running it or should he run it?
No, you got to keep running it. May I share this? May I have a moment and share the screen with you and your new president?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm asking.
Let me figure out how you.
You're probably going to have to read some of it for those of us on the phone.
I want to read from the post bylaws. There's two things that your rules come from. One is the post bylaws, where it's Article XI, as I call it. And here's what it says. There shall be a committee it's not really a committee, however. That's why we got to change these bylaws someday. It's board of directors. There shall be a board of directors known as the Minneapolis Richfield American Legion Post 435 Holding Company. It'll abide by its rules, articles of incorporation and bylaws. Finance responsibilities are indicated in Article X of these bylaws, so you should look at those. The first meeting should be held in accordance with the articles and bylaws. The holding company shall consist of 8 members, composed of the newly elected commander and the chairman of the Property and Finance Committee, so they're on automatically. Then we have the newly elected commander shall preside over the election of all officers. So you got to keep going. And then, but the commander may not be elected president. The secretary shall keep minutes. Do we have a secretary keeping minutes?
I think Diane's keeping minutes for now since we don't have
No.
one assigned yet.
We need to
Oh,
settle.
Mark, you are?
We need to settle that tonight. We can't piecemeal it and take from that.
Okay, so Mark, you're taking minutes for now.
I'm taking minutes from now, but we have to get a secretary.
Yep,
So
perfect. Okay,
Just to finish up, you can have a president, a vice president, secretary, and treasurer. They could be the same people, although it's not advised. The president shall preside at all meetings. The vice president presides when the president is absent. Secretary keeps minutes, and you have your own bylaws. So that's it for now.
okay.
I'll make sure you know that.
Are there any volunteers or nominations for the position of vice president?
it's just us guys.
Come on, guys. It's just,
Amazing. Oh, and she was on the debate team.
listen, I'll start volunteering people.
Come
All
on,
right,
guys.
Dave Kane, I'm going to volunteer you for vice president, or nominate for vice president, I should say.
Thank you.
No problem. That's the kind of guy I am. Are there any other nominations or volunteers?
Hey, is Tom Eckhoff on here?
Yep, he's here.
Tom,
I'm
that would
here.
be a good idea for you to join me on this in some capacity. We've got the time at the post. You've got more.
I'm happy to be on the committee or the board. I'm not sure I should have a position of responsibility other than that because I'm going through chemo treatment. And
Okay.
I don't know about my actual health.
Thank you, Tom. That's fine. I understand
I
it.
appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate, asking about it. And I'd like to be able to participate. I'm just not sure of at what level right now.
Okay. Are there any other nominations or volunteers for vice president?
Well, Cooper, I imagine I can do something.
Okay. Well, how about, okay. Are there any other volunteers or nominations for the vice president? Jim, I think we can get you in somewhere else.
All right, I think it's still a question whether I'm on the committee or not.
Oh yeah, that's coming. That's a very good point. Thank you.
That's why I was holding back.
Fair enough. Okay. If there's no other nominations or volunteers, all those in favor of Mr. Kane being the vice president of the holding corporation signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations, Dave Kane.
You're going to be as appreciative when I nominate you for secretary?
Hey, man, if you can tolerate my handwriting. All right, are there any nominations or volunteers for secretary?
Hey, Glenn,
Yes, sir.
is there anything you can add to what any titles? I mean, secretary takes minutes. They takes the notes of our meetings, and that's going to be important. We're going to review them together. I will with whoever the secretary is, so we get everything on there we need.
Well, although I can't show you, there's extensive stuff in your bylaws about what the secretary does,
Well,
and also the treasurer. It's the usual stuff, but I'd be happy to read it if you want.
I think the people need to know.
Okay, shall I read that then?
Sure.
Secretary keeps the minutes, sees that all notices are given in accordance with the bylaws. I'm reading it in plain language. Keep a register of the post office address of each member of the corporation, which I would suggest if it's already been done, you don't have to do it again. Sign with the president or the vice president or any proper officer, mortgages, deeds, bonds, contracts. In other words, the board would have to say the secretary should sign, otherwise somebody else signs. Anything else the board tells them to do. And in general, perform all duties incidental to the office of secretary and such other duties as may be assigned to him by the president or the board. Treasurer is required by the board to give a bond for the faithful discharge of his duties and such sum and with such surety. This is a problem. I didn't see this before, and if I did, I forgot. He shall have charge and custody of and be responsible for all the funds and securities of the corporation, in other words, a holding corporation. Receive and give receipts for monies due and payable, deposit monies in banks, etc., as designated, perform all duties incidental to the office of treasurer. We can deal with this bond issue easy enough, but it's
Okay.
required. Maybe you've already got one, I don't know. But we can deal with that.
All right. Are there any other nominations or volunteers for secretary?
Let me ask just a general question, knowing I was just elected to vice president. Would it make a level of sense to have me pick up a treasurer's position as opposed to vice president? So I can coordinate both the holding corporation side and the post side?
I don't think there's anything in the bylaws saying you can't hold both.
And the cold.
But, okay.
I'd be in favor of you being the treasurer over the first vice or the vice president.
Okay.
Mark, do you want to nominate him for that or nominate a reconsideration of the earlier decision and then nominate Gabe for treasury?
How about this one? How about if I resign right now from vice president since I was just elected, then I'll open myself up for the treasurer position.
Okay. Does anybody have a problem with that?
I don't.
Okay.
Okay, before you vote, let's make a motion to appoint him as treasurer, subject to the bylaw provision, Article 3, Section 8, with regard to a bond. So the point is, we'll get that.
Okay. So we need I'm sorry, Glenn, we need a motion to appoint him.
You know, motion to appoint him as treasurer, subject to this bond provision.
Okay.
So we'll get a bond as necessary.
Can I please have somebody make that motion?
I will make the motion that for the appointment of Dave Kane to the position of treasurer on the property or on the holding company, holding corporation, subject to ability to be bonded.
Do I have a second?
Seconded. Eckhoff, second.
Awesome. Any discussion on that? Any discussion? Any discussion? All right. With no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion as tabled, or I'm sorry, as put forward, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, motion passed. Congratulations. So now we need a new vice president. Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
That's correct.
Any nomination? Are there any nominations or volunteers for vice president?
Eckhoff can volunteer if he can step down in the future without any ramifications.
There are no ramifications to resigning as an officer.
All right. Are there any other nominations or volunteers? Are there any other nominations or volunteers? All right, I'm closing nominations. All those in favor of Tom Eckhoff? I'm sorry, is there any discussion on that? All right, no discussion. All those in favor of Tom Eckhoff being the vice president, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I,
All those opposed? All right, congratulations, Tom Eckhoff. Now finally for the secretary. Are there any nominations or volunteers for the position of secretary?
I'll volunteer for that, Adam.
Awesome, thank you, Mike. Are there any other nominations or volunteers for secretary? Are there any other nominations or volunteers for secretary? All right, I'm closing nominations. Is there any discussion on that? All right, all those in favor of Mike Hewitt becoming the secretary of the holding corporation, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those opposed? All right, congratulations, Mike Hewitt. All right, on to the next thing. We got motion consideration. In the email that you all received, there was a second document aside from the agenda, put together by our legal team. Has everybody had a chance to read that? Oh, actually, you know what? Let's back up. Let's get something else done first. So as I mentioned,
make a motion, Commander?
so as I mentioned in the membership meeting, Tom Steele had to withdraw his candidacy due to some personal reasons here, and Jim Cooper, with the next amount of votes, would come up into that spot to replace Tom Steele. Can I please have a motion to confirm Jim Cooper as a member of the holding corporation?
This is Dave, so moved.
Do I have a second, please?
Seconded.
Who's that,
Mike
sorry?
Hewitt.
Mike Hewitt. We'll go with Mike Hewitt on that one.
He has a 2-year term.
Yep, as a 2-year term. Is there any discussion about that?
Yeah, I've got one thing to add or ask. This is for Glenn. Are we in good position here with just picking the next person up who was on the ballot? Are we going to be good with that?
Yes, we had great discussion about that. You haven't really constituted the meeting, and the person that was running withdrew.
Right.
So
No, I understand.
so that would mean the highest vote getters get elected, which is what it says, and then they did. Because the other guy left, was gone. But also, even if that wasn't the case, the bylaws allow the new or any holding corporation, if there's a vacancy, to appoint someone, which you essentially just did.
Cool.
I think you're covered either way.
All right. Is there any other discussion on that? Any further discussion? All right, being no further discussion there, all those in favor of Jim Cooper taking that 2-year spot, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, motion passed. Congratulations, Jim Cooper. Welcome to the party.
The water's fine.
Good.
Can I ask one last thing on that, and then we'll move on to it real quick? That
Yes, sir.
was a 2-year position. Did the 3 1-year positions, mine being one of them, stay the same then? Yeah, there was-
Yes, I would. Yes.
Okay.
Tom Steele had been elected as a 2-year position, so we're replacing it with the next highest vote getter in the 2-year.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So next thing on the agenda was that motion put forth as drafted by our legal team. Has everybody had a chance to read that? Has somebody not had a chance to read that?
Is this
Okay.
Is this that long or about a 1 page?
I will go ahead and read it. All right. Again, this is drafted by legal. It's a motion for the sale of the real estate by ballot. Minneapolis Richfield Post 435 Board of Directors is directed and authorized as follows. to promptly engage a realtor or broker to offer for sale and to sell all real estate, including land and buildings, which comprise Hennepin County parcel number 26-028-24-23-0001 at 6501 Portland Avenue in Richfield, Minnesota, which is currently owned by the Minneapolis Richfield Post 435 Holding Company. 1, the Post 435 Board of Directors shall use its best efforts and best judgment to effectuate the sale and seek to obtain an appropriate sale price. 2, the commander is authorized to work with the city of Richfield and its appointed agents as may be required to effectuate a sale. 3, the commander is authorized to sign all documents and do all things necessary to effectuate the sale, except those that must be signed by an officer of the holding company. In which case, the Minneapolis Richfield Post 435 Holding Company president is authorized to do all that is required in that regard. The Property and Finance Committee shall advise on the control and spending of the new trust or escrow account, but the Post 435 Board of Directors shall have ultimate authority over that committee and how the funds are spent. In addition, the Post CPA firm or another professional manager that is selected by the Board of Directors shall provide professional management services for the trust or escrow account. Subject to the ultimate authority of the Post 435 Board of Directors, all funds that are net proceeds, of the sale shall be subject to the control of the Property and Finance Committee to be used for all financial affairs of the Post and Post properties, including but not limited to paying the bills of all Post and club activities, retiring debt, and preserving sufficient funds to ensure the longevity of Post 435 and its charitable works. The Post 435 Board of Directors is instructed and authorized to find an appropriate physical space or spaces for Post operations to be used before, during, and after the real estate is sold. The commander is authorized to sign leases and other agreements to secure such spaces. That is the motion as drafted by legal. Can I have a motion? I'm sorry. I don't know how to word this.
Just ask for someone to make that motion.
Does somebody make that motion?
This is Dave Kane. I move that we accept that motion as written, as read by now by the commander.
Okay, do I have a second?
Jim Cooper, I'll second that.
Okay. All right, is there any discussion on that?
Eckhoff has a question.
Go ahead, Tom.
So is this holding corporation, the holding corporation? Is it the Post 435 Board of Directors? Is it the holding company? Can we be clear about what it is?
Glenn, can you weigh in on that, please?
I would love to. It is the Post 435 Holding Company Corporation. It is not the Post 435 Board.
Okay. So it's a title company, corporation, or just?
Yes, I often say company, but it's not. It's really corporation. I'm trying to change that.
So really, it's the Post 435 Holding Corporation.
Yes.
Just to
Okay.
clarify myself, Glenn, I think the answer is that the holding corporation holds title to that property, therefore they're the ones that are authorized to sell it?
That's correct. You're on the title.
And the property inside,
Yes, the whole parcel and the building and whatever. the whole-
contents.
Yep.
I don't know about the contents, but whoever is supposed to own the contents owns the contents.
The contents are going to be Property and Finance Committee now that the Property and Finance Committee has been reconstituted.
And so this motion's on the floor. Can I just discuss it quickly?
Go ahead, Glenn.
Okay, this motion's been passed, as you know, by the board of the Post. This motion, the exact same motion's been passed by the membership by 200 and some to single digits. And now it's been passed by you. So it's been passed by everybody that it needs to be passed by. So we have a couple things going on. We've got the city who is working on this whole larger area, which encompasses you, and they want to know what's going on so they can plan for the future, whatever that is. Then we've got, and so we need to plug into that soon. We have a possible broker that we've been talking to, and you just passed the motion to allow the commander or to allow yourselves to sign the agreement, which is, we've been negotiating, it's almost done. So we'd have that for you next time.
That's with Cushman and Wakefield.
Yeah, presumably, if we come to terms, and it's be up to you to decide that. And then we also are working on a kind of a present, that'll be over time, several input ways to get the members to talk about what they want. So we make sure we hear that, and we make sure that they are heard. We will take that. We will take what the city says are restrictions there. We'll hear from the broker as to what might be best and everything. And then we're going to try to get somebody to draw something up based on all that. So then we can go back to the members and say, how does this look to you? They don't have to say yes because they've already approved it, but they need it to know that they've been heard. So that's still coming. And we got, a 6-month process before the city and everybody else can get through this before a buyer would probably buy it. So all that's going on. So so tonight we have this thing with a contract that you haven't seen because it's not quite done, with the guy I'm calling the super lawyer. And he's the one that was recommended to us, and we've met with him a few times. Peter Coyle, Larkin and Hoffman Law Firm, because we need someone who knows the city processes and all the fixers and everybody, and has dealt with these high level land use issues. For instance, if the city comes down and says, this whole area, we'd like it to be zoned for this because that's better for the community. And we say, well, that's nice, except that's going to cut $1 million off the price we get. Can we work on that? He's the kind of a guy that can help with that and the politics of it all, which is very real. So we need him to show up at a meeting on November 24th. And while I think he would do it anyway, he sent me an email that he considers himself employed, but he isn't really. So the next motion would be for you to, I guess, I would ask you to approve this retainer agreement with this lawyer, somewhat sight unseen, although I can send it to all of you right now if you want to see it. He's not cheap. And we got his retainer agreement, and I've never seen an agreement that I didn't think I could fix. So I said, do you mind if I mark it up? I didn't hear back. I marked it up. I said, we don't like this. We don't like this. What do you want to change this? So he says today in an email, I just want to bring this to your attention to show you that I'm working on your behalf. I have never had anyone mark up my retainer agreement. Now you have. He wants his rate, which he has not changed for 2 years, is $510 an hour. So I said, well, how about less? He said, well, okay, but I'll reduce it to 500. So that's kind of where we are. So there's not much downward pressure. So it's probably $500 an hour. We would use him sparingly, and we would have him be done when this matter is somewhat settled at a high level. So I guess the motion would be to proceed to hire him under these general, this number, generally speaking.
Let's back up then, because we already kind of got a motion on the table here. We can get to that next.
Thank
So we
you.
got the motion for the sale of the property as I read. We got to second that. Is there any further discussion on that?
Thank you.
All right. With no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? All right, that motion's passed. And we will jump right
I didn't
into,
want to add this in, but just to give everybody a little bit of background. When we've talked to Cushman and Wakefield and we talked with the city before, some of the things we wanted to have included in this package is, jump back one. The city in their comprehensive plan identified this property as high density multifamily housing. So that one is there. Secondly, we wanted to stay in that kind of motif but we also asked them to be able to try, see if they could include subsidized housing for veterans.
Yep.
As well as a bar restaurant type facility for the Legion. They had one other constraint they wanted to put in, which was a larger meeting space, somewhat similar to the auditorium we have right now.
Yep.
So those were the criteria that we laid out with Cushman and Wakefield, and we also talked about with the city. And both sides, both Cushman and Wakefield and the city were both in general agreement. So it at least gives you a sense of what it is we're trying to accomplish as part of the sale.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. All right, so now can I have a motion to retain the services of Peter Coyle, like Glenn laid out? Motion, not a Steve. Go ahead.
Eckhoff will make a motion that we acquire the services of Peter Coyle, the super lawyer, and we get it done fast so we don't spend all our money.
Agreed. Can I get a second, please?
I'll second
Who's
that,
that?
Cooper.
Cooper. All right, thank you, Mr. Cooper. All right, is there any further discussion to that? Is there any more discussion on that? I thought Glenn did a good job of kind of laying out what that entails.
Is there anything that we can do to, I have no experience with this, so I'm just like everyone else, $500 an hour is pretty damn expensive. But as long as he gets as long as he works for us and gets done what we need him to do, I'm just not aware of what, is there so much we can do beforehand before he has to get involved?
Mark, is that Mark Parcell talking?
Yes.
Yeah, Mark, this is Dennis. Glenn and I have talked about this. We're going to have Glenn, who is, able to facilitate so much of this for us. Glenn's going to make sure Coyle is, what word do I want to use? Wound up when we need him wound up and not just free floating on the matter. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm cheaper.
Yeah.
Thank you, Glenn.
Basically,
if you think about it, in our previous discussions, we met with the city planning department.
Yep.
This is now trying to engage the city council and making sure the city council is in line with what the planning commission, not the even planning commission, the community development director had been talking about.
Okay.
Is there any more discussion on that? All right. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, consider that motion passed. And finally then, we need, because that line of credit that was mentioned, because it is using the property as collateral, the holding corporation then needs to approve that, obtaining that line of credit. So can I please have a motion for the post 435 authorizing the obtaining that line of credit, please?
And that was up to 285 or up to 300? What are we looking at?
Right now, what they're proposing in their letter of intent is 285 for a year. Had discussions with them if we would need additional monies, depending on how long the whole process takes. We could look at increasing that number and increasing the length of the term.
And I just want to reiterate on that, just because it's 285 does not mean we have to use all 285. If we end up only using, say, 50 grand, just to kind of help us limp through until the sale's done, then we only pay back 50 grand. It's not, we have to pay back 285.
Right.
That makes sense?
So we'll take it as we need it.
I'm sorry, was there a second on that? Or was there a motion? I'm sorry.
No motion yet.
I'm sorry, I'm confused, guys. So can I please have a motion authorizing the acquiring of that line of credit?
So moved.
Who's that?
Mike
Oh,
Hewitt.
Mike. Thanks, Mike. Can I get a second, please? All right, thank you, Tom.
Ooh.
Thank you, Tom Eckhoff. Discussion. Is there any questions about that? Any further discussion on it?
Yes, a point of order. This is authorized in your bylaws, Article 5, Section 2, which in a roundabout way says that you cannot borrow money unless the board authorizes it. So that would suggest that you can borrow money if the board authorizes it, which is the way I would have written it. And you did that, or you were about to. Okay?
Perfect. Is there any other discussion on that? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Perfect. Consider that passed.
One more minor point of order, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I hate to bring this up. It's you should have done it earlier, but you should turn it over to the president.
Okay, all right. So really, Mark, all I got left on the agenda is getting that next meeting set, and then that's it.
I have one other thing. In trying to keep the notes here, minutes. Who was the person that gave the second for retaining Peter Coyle? I have Tom Eckhoff as making the motion, and who was the second?
I believe
Jim
that
Cooper.
was me.
That
Cooper.
was Jim Cooper.
Jim Cooper, got it, okay. Okay, and now we need to, okay, so we've done the election, the motion consideration has been passed, line of credit has been authorized to proceed, professional services, provisional holding corporation, meeting December 2nd, 7 PM Zoom. I will be in California presumably that day. I can get on by Zoom and is that going to be a problem? It's provisionally, we can do it the day before, or I mean on the 30th, or how soon? Now, Dave, you're going to be proceeding with the line of credit application, right?
I am, but it's gonna take us, probably, about to that time, because we have to put together probably some sort of business plan, but also finalize the budget piece before we
Okay.
can, go move forward with that.
Does anybody have any conflicts the following week? I mean, does it have to be on the 2nd?
I'm open unless somebody gets murdered in Hopkins, so.
I'll stay out of it.
Bill,
Yeah.
December 9th?
let's go with to that Monday, or the December 2nd, that would be on a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
What days are good for people to get on these meetings right
How
now?
about,
Mondays and Tuesdays are my off days. They're the best days of the week for me. So
which day? Okay.
Mondays and Tuesdays, that's my Saturday and Sunday. So
All right, and how about you, Mr. Dingman?
Either day works for me.
Okay, Dave?
I'm fine, yeah. What it's gonna come down to is whatever we decide, I'm gonna work the initial property and finance committee around that, what we're doing for the holding corporation. So
Sure.
I'm, as I told somebody else, I'm old and retired. My calendar's pretty much open.
Okay, and right now, for the time being, I'm still off on my short-term disability from my knee surgery, so I'm good probably through the month of December for right now. How about you, Lynn? Any day of the week good for you?
Okay for me.
Okay, and Mr. Cooper?
Sundays are Sunday, but every other day of the week is Saturday for me. I'm retired.
Okay, and I know your schedule, Adam, or got an idea about it. Tom, you're free?
Yes,
most of the time?
I'm pretty free. I do have a chemo rotation going on every 2 weeks, but I can work around it, I think.
Okay, Tom, thank you. Is there anyone I've missed who's not showing up with a name on my screen?
Digman, you said you were good, right? I didn't.
Yep, good
Okay,
day,
cool.
good day.
So what day did we decide?
We didn't decide on a date, but we have to do a tentative one. I would rather do it once I return from California. I'm going to
Okay,
see my grandson.
So how about, we can also decide that via email too. So we know it has to be a Monday or Tuesday. When are you getting back, Mark?
I'll be back on the 5th. I was gonna say, how about the 7th? Right now, tentatively. The 7th at 7 PM.
That works for me.
My
Yep,
calendar's
that's good.
open.
Works for me.
7th is
Alright.
good.
December 7th at 7 PM or 6 PM? What time do you think?
The 7 PM a conflict for anyone?
Nope.
No, it works.
Perfect.
Let's go
It'll
with.
be a hard day to
right
remember.
now with that.
Okay. I think we can have an email sent out with an invite and everything, so.
Sure. We'll have a good link
And
too.
I'm probably gonna pick somewhere around the 30th, the 1st or the 2nd for the property and finance, and that'll affect you guys. Mike, it'll affect you also.
Just let me know.
Yep.
All right, as a member of the holding corporation, I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made. Any second?
Second.
All those in, any discussion? 1, 2, 3. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Carried.
Guys, see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank all you guys for your participation.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.